Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say Queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. They're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. Hello, and I welcome everybody to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. Today, we are joined by Mary Beth Simon from Philadelphia. She is the owner of Niche Partnership Consulting. Welcome, Mary Beth.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with you.
It's great to have you here. So I said from Philadelphia, the Philadelphia area anyway, up north. So tell us a little bit about what Niche Partnership Consulting is.
Yeah, so I retired from corporate in 2018, and my specialty was project and program management. I worked in financial services. And so in my business, I primarily help business owners and individuals create their contingency plans so that they are prepared for the unexpected. And I also do some strategic planning with businesses and nonprofits, especially this time of year.
Yeah, I bet. Coming up on the end of the year, planning for next year. So when I read that, I was like, okay, what exactly is contingency planning for businesses? Is like estate planning for a business, kind of?
Well, it complements estate planning. So honestly, the work that you do with your attorney, it's very, very important, whether it's for your personal life or your business, but it's simple to get it done. It costs a good bit of money sometimes, but it's, they do all of the work. You might meet with them for a couple of hours, go through some details, and then they go ahead and create all of your estate plans, and then you meet with them and they explain everything to you. And
it's not like an action plan. It's kind of like a plan on paper.
It is. And then in order to make that really support, like that is a cornerstone of your contingency plan, but there are other pieces of the contingency plan that need to be put in place. So I recommend that you identify a second in command for your personal life and for your business you will train to do what you do, so that they are prepared to step in case you need to be overseas to take care of, like we have family members overseas, if you have some unexpected need that takes you away from your business or your life. And so I've created a process that I take my clients through to assemble all of their information related to their finances, everything to do with their life, whether it is titles to their vehicles, real estate, all of that information, their passport, social security card, birth certificate, all of that is assembled into a binder and organized in that system, and then stored in a fireproof safe. So we start that way with an individual, and then I do that with a business owner to go through their all of their related information for the business. And then finally, I work with business owners to create their standard operating procedures, because most business owners don't have them for themselves. They have them for everyone else who works for them, but not for them.
Yes. Yeah. It's all up here, right in our heads. Right.
It is. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can only imagine the weight that's lifted off of people when that happens. So we heard a little about the consulting. Tell us a little bit about Mary Beth as a person.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I worked in corporate for a very long time. And I was in the same company, but always changing roles. I probably had about 15 different jobs in 31 years.
Wow.
Some of them were my choice. Some of them were not my choice. Still, I love change. And that is probably what attracts me to the project management type of work. I love to work with different people, after a period of time. So typically when I work with clients, I might work with them for 3 months. And then I work with a new client or on a new project. And Yeah, so I love change. When I retired, I became a certified Les Mills instructor, because I just wanted something that would challenge me physically, and I knew I would be doing public speaking in my business, so I wanted to like stay in front of people, manage my nerves, and memorize choreography and all of that kind of stuff to keep me sharp while I was building my business and getting ready to open. I am a rescue dog mom. I have a couple older rescue dogs. I'm married, and my husband owns an auto repair business, so I can talk car.
Nice.
So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. So
Yeah.
tell us about kind of that transition from corporate to like, what was the catalyst of you going, I'm going to open my own business? I'm going to do something for myself after
Yeah.
retirement. Normally that happens like before that. People get fed up and leave and do their own thing, but you stuck it out, retired, and then did your own thing. So
I did. So I always envisioned that I would retire early. So I thought I would do it when I was 50, but I waited until I was 55, and all of the numbers just came together well. And I mean, I would say that there were times throughout my career that I wanted to leave before that, but I was getting to the point where I was getting so close that
yeah.
I would get a different job. I would change it up and like, try and, stay excited about what I was doing and learn something new, to get to that milestone. And I always envisioned that I would do something else after I retired for a business because I feel healthy. I like being engaged. I like trying new things. I just wasn't sure what it would be. And so 2 years before my target date of retirement, one of my closest friends who retired before me, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that was, devastating. I mean, they were optimistic about it. It was operable, which it isn't operable for everyone. So
Right.
we thought it was early stage. And so, like, initially it started out, we thought that she would make it through. And then it became more serious. And she asked me if she didn't survive, would I be willing to help her husband navigate the retiree benefits and the finances? Because
Hmm.
she did all the investing. We were both program managers, so we were technology geeks. He didn't use a computer, didn't use a cell phone. He's 13 years older than her. So it was like
Okay.
all of these things that she knew were going to be challenging.
Hmm.
And so I said, of course I would do it, not knowing what I was agreeing to.
Yeah, I bet.
And and I asked her to show me what she had going on, how she did what she did. And that never happened. And she passed away, and I just started figuring things out. So I spent about 6 hours a week with her husband for 3 months, to get everything all figured out. And in that process, I realized that, uh, as organized as I am, that I wasn't prepared. If something happened to me, my husband would be basically in the same situation.
Hmm.
So that's when I decided to really focus on contingency planning, knowing that there's, are all of these boomers who are retiring. And I thought that it would be an important service. So I initially focused on retirees and then quickly got involved with business owners.
Hmm.
So I thought I would be working with older people, 55 and older, but I honestly work mostly with women who are 35 to 55, who are business owners, who may want to have another baby, who worry that their spouse or partner doesn't know enough about how they run the household and the business, to keep things going if they were hospitalized or, out of the game for a temporary amount of time.
Wow. Okay. So are you helping them to you mentioned like short-term leave, are you helping plug someone into that role, or just developing the role so that they can hire help, or bring that person in, or someone
Yeah.
on their internal team can do that?
Right. So first we look, so a lot of people who I work with have teams. And so first we look at who they have on their team. Now, if they don't have, full-time employees, they might have contractors that they work with, online business managers. So we might piece it together. So I sometimes refer to this as a board of directors type approach, where
Okay.
you might have a spouse or a partner who you trust with making the financial decisions so they can see everything financially. And maybe you don't want everyone in your business to have that purview. So
Hmm.
maybe your key person personally, like at home or in your relationship, is your number one, but then they're supported by possibly your online business manager, your administrative assistant, your bookkeeper, an accountant, that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
if something were to happen, we create a plan where they would all come together and have a piece of the pie.
Okay, nice. All right. So tell us about a client, someone, I mean, maybe not your friend client, but tell us about someone that you've helped take through this process, and what that looked like.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just mush together a bunch of clients and to make it into one so that I don't disclose any personal information. But I
Of course.
work a lot with group practice owners, mental health group practice owners. So I
Okay.
recently spoke at a conference in Chicago in July to mental health group practice owners. So I've been working with them for probably the last year and a half or so. And so typically we start with the personal plan, and that is so individual for everyone. So it depends on, what is happening in their life. How old are their kids? How many kids do they have? Do they have children? How involved are they in their parents' finances? They may have bank accounts with parents,
Hmm.
depending on the situation. What are their accounts with their spouse or partner? Not every person shares finances or even wants their partner to know about their finances. So it's really getting into the details of that kind of information and identifying if they have a need for financial planning advice and connecting them with proper resources. Do they have the necessary insurance that they need? So sometimes with high net worth business owners, they may not focus in those areas because they feel like, I have enough money to do what I need to do, right? And so
Yeah.
they don't have the insurance, they don't have the financial planning advice. So I do an assessment and review all of those areas, and then I'll do some research and make some connections for them, and then they have homework to do to pull all of their information together as well.
So it really has to start at the personal level, pretty
I
much.
Yeah, that's my goal, is to start at the personal level. Now, recently I've had some clients come in who say that they have personal plans. So we start with a strategy session to review the personal plan so that I can see where that stands, because people have
Do
different.
you really have a plan? Let's check that plan.
Exactly. What does that mean to you? It may mean
Yes.
something different to me, right? So it's a good foundation, because that's where I figure out if you need to work with an attorney, and do you have the right type of an attorney. So for example, with group practice owners, they are, in some states they're required to have what's called a professional will, and that is a will that gives their clients uh, gives access to their client information to another therapist. So if
Oh, yeah.
something happens, can you imagine, if your therapist dies and you have appointments set up, and they're not even canceled and you show up and nobody's there and you're like, what is happening, right?
Yeah, I
You
can
want
imagine.
somebody to communicate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once we finish but in that personal plan phase, that's when I identify where are those big gaps. A lot of work gets done during that. And then we can build on that and go into the business contingency plan. And so I create all of the materials for the clients, the binders, with all of the document holding inserts and everything, and I ship that to them so that they have that before we start each plan. And then the final one, the SOPs, we do that digitally on Google Drive and just provide it to them so that they can just import that into their business materials.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I love that process, and I love the peace of mind that that's got to bring people, and not even just the business owner, but their clients, their families, everyone surrounding them.
Right. Like sometimes families don't want to talk about this at all. They're like, why are you doing this? Why would you?
Yeah.
But yeah, usually my clients have either experienced something themselves or they have seen something happen. Either, a parent has had to handle it or a friend has had to be in that situation. And it's women typically who say, hey, I know I need to get this in place, because women, feel responsible for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course we do.
Yeah.
We are.
Yes. Right.
Most of the time, right?
Exactly. They're like, if I'm not here, what happens?
So tell us that failure that people are avoiding by engaging your services. What is that? What are they avoiding by setting all of this up? I know obviously the patient, transfer of information, but what else? What else could we find ourselves in if we don't take action?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, by avoiding taking these steps, when something, I always think about the people who were on cruises before we knew that COVID even existed, right? And their boats were kept out to sea. How many of them were business owners? How many of them had what they needed to do bank transfers on board? Did they have the security? Did they have the resources to do that? Were they able to run their business from a cruise ship? Were they even thinking about that when they left for vacation? It's that kind of unexpected absence, and you think of how upsetting that can be to your employees if they don't know when they're going to get paid. They don't know the status of the business. Is the business going to keep running? And we've had business owners who were hospitalized even later with COVID, and the employees were saying to us, I don't even know what's going to happen. Nobody else knows how to do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about caring for your employees and keeping your team together and creating a situation where they are taken care of regardless of what's going on for you, then that really is one of the impetuses to get this done.
Yeah. So we're not just avoiding problems after our own death when we won't care, but even during illness or extended vacations, unplanned extended vacations.
Exactly. And the positive of getting this done is that business owners are able to take more vacation, because when we go through this process, we're able to evaluate, why is the business owner doing this role? Should they be the ones doing it? Like I had somebody who's like, I love planning the birthday parties. You're so busy, like maybe there's somebody else that this should go to.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, evaluate what is on your plate to free you up more and to make things more streamlined.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much that plays into. I was really kind of thinking, like, how do the processes and systems fall into place? But I can imagine how many things you identify throughout this process that, like, the C-suite people are ordering a birthday cake from Sam's for the staff. Like, that is definitely a thing they should not be doing, even if they do enjoy it, right?
Exactly.
Like, let's figure out where you're spending your time in your business and free you up even
Right.
more.
That's right.
So let's take it back to your business and the iterations of niche partnership consulting. You've obviously had a crapload of experience that brought you to this point, but were there challenges coming from corporate America where everything was kind of done for you, or you were the one implementing for them and then doing your own thing, going, wait a minute, what do I need in my business? How do I hire a team? How do I develop this? What were some of those initial struggles when you first started out on your own?
Yeah, that is a great question because I was a project and program manager. So I usually did not have a team. I would have people who didn't report to me who were responsible to me, but I often was like a one-woman show. So I thought coming into my own business, like, how hard could it be?
How long
We'll
can we
just
keep
take a
this laugh
moment.
going? Right. How hard can it be?
Right,
Really
exactly.
hard.
Really
Really
hard.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I had done all kinds of technology assessments and made recommendations and done implementations in corporate. And doing it for my own business was a completely different ball game. I mean, the time that I had in the last 5 years before I left corporate, I was responsible for evaluating a CRM for the enterprise. And I thought when I needed one for my business, I'm like, this will be simple. Oh my gosh, I spent so much time and tried so many different softwares and I wasted so much money. And yeah, it's just a black hole. You go into a rabbit hole and it's like, it's hard to get.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was challenging. I worked really, really hard, a lot of hours. And there was a lot of learning, but I would say I love it so much. It's the most enjoyable work I've ever done in my life.
That's awesome. So do
Yeah.
you have a team now 5 years later? Do you have other people that are helping you out? Or are you running this all on your own?
Yeah. So it's really only been 3 years. So it was 3 years in May since I opened. I opened in May 2019. I have contractors who I work with to support me, but I don't have any employees as of
Mhm.
yet. That may change next year.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
kind of at that.
congratulations. I mean,
Yeah,
3 years in to already be where you are is fantastic. And
thank
you're
you.
speaking on stages to who? Who is your audience?
Yeah, so I speak at conferences. So let's see. I have done all different types of speaking engagements to, small industry groups like the American Businesswomen's Association. Um, and I spoke at a TED Style event. I wrote a TED Style talk. I did that last year. I did it in two different venues, actually, two different events. I spoke this year at the Pennsylvania Sustainable Agriculture Conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That was in February. And then in July, I spoke at the Group Practice Owners Conference in Chicago. Yeah, so mostly professional type conferences, business conferences,
Mhm.
to share with them ideas on how they can better plan for the unexpected.
Yeah, yeah. Do you go much into the systems and processes during those talks?
So I give examples to kind of bring them in as to what can be considered part of contingency planning, and then I share with them all of the categories that are included in the contingency plan. So for some people, they love seeing that because it is
Mhm.
a way for them to get started. They don't know exactly what's behind it, what everything that I would coach you on doing with it, but it is a great way to start. And then for business owners, I created a course for how I work with business owners to get their standard operating procedures documented. I created a free course for them to take advantage of too, in case they want to do that with their teams.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you can offer that value without, giving away the entire secret sauce.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes it's important for people to be able to start small, right? Because this is an investment financially and from their, a perspective of time. And not everyone's ready for that at the time that they may find me.
Mhm.
So they need to start with some small incremental steps.
Yeah, and I'm sure giving them those broad strokes of what to kind of gather and be thinking about before they engage you is probably pretty helpful leading up to like, wait, where's my birth certificate?
Right. Exactly. And they're like, do I really need that anymore? Yes, you do.
Yeah, my 80, oh my gosh, how old is she? 82-year-old grandmother was actually talking to me this last week about she found her birth certificate, but she's been married twice. And so now, and she doesn't have either marriage license or any of that. And of course, both the men are dead at this point. But to get her real ID,
Yeah,
they're requiring it. And she's like, I don't
exactly.
even know where to go
Right.
to
Yeah.
start getting that. How do I prove this that I was married to these two dead guys? So yeah, it's something to think about because the government or somebody's going to want it one of these days.
Yeah. And some people, some women rely on Social Security of like, even if they were divorced, if they were married for 10 years,
Hmm.
then the spouse is eligible to get the deceased spouse's Social Security, or even if they're alive, to get their Social Security. So you need those documents to show the government, and you need a birth certificate in order to be buried.
Really?
Yeah, you have to have
Didn't know
all
that.
of your like original information of where you were born, and yeah, imagine
Wow.
that.
So give the listeners a little teaser of some of those things that they can start thinking about to put into place, other than documents, obviously,
Yeah.
in preparation to make this contingency plan or work with you on a contingency plan for their life and business.
Yeah. So first, I would say is think about who your second in command could be. Sometimes people are like, oh, it should be my oldest. Oh, it should be fill in the blank. And what is most important is that the person is able to navigate difficult situations. So imagine something has happened to you. It's an emotionally charged situation and there's business to be taken care of.
Yes.
It needs to be that type of person, somebody
Probably
who,
not my baby. Probably not
y-
my child.
yeah,
Probably
I
not.
mean, it's often not, right? And that can be a tough realization for people to come to. And sometimes they don't realize till they start talking to the child, and the child's like, why are you asking me this?
You want me to do what? No, I'm going to be in my
No,
closet crying with a bowl of ice cream. What are you talking about, mom?
exactly. So think about who that person can be, somebody who
Mm,
you trust with all of your financial information, your social security number, your everything, your passwords, all of that kind of stuff. So somebody who you trust 100%, and make
mhm.
a list of those people, because it may end up being more than one person. It might be one
Mm.
person for your personal life, one person for your business. So identify your second in command. The next thing I would say is to uh, have a password management system.
Oh my God. Could you say that again? Say it really loud.
Have a password management system.
Number one problem with my business. Nobody knows their login.
Yes, this is
Yes.
so important.
So
It yeah,
important.
it can really impede progress if you don't have
Yes.
this information available. So I like LastPass. There
Yes.
Yeah, there are other
My fave.
online systems available. I don't like Norton very much. It's like really glitchy. But LastPass is wonderful. It's wonderful for business owners. It works for HIPAA compliant businesses. If
Mm.
you don't like an online password management system, or your second in command doesn't like that, then I recommend having a password book. And I have instructions for how to create one on my website that you can access. with a video and all of the information about what you need to do it. So you have to think about what works for you and what works for your second in command. So even if you use something like LastPass and you need to have a book for your second in command, you can download the LastPass passwords into an Excel spreadsheet, like do it every few months or something, and just put it in the book so that you don't have to.
So smart. That's brilliant.
So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I would say is to think about your estate planning. So first for you as an individual, and then estate planning related to succession planning for your business. If your estate plans have not been updated in the past 5 years, it's time to pull them out, read them. I pretty much guarantee that something has changed, something will need to be updated. And if you've never created one, because over 50% of Americans have no estate plan in place, then it's time to find an attorney who you would like to work with to put them in place. And I have a wide array of attorneys across the United States. I have a spreadsheet, so if you want to connect with me and ask me if I have an attorney I can refer to you, please do. Feel free to do that because it's so important.
Yes, yes. I love that. Those are here, your top 3 tips. Figure out who your second is. Please, for the love of God and every deity, get your passwords in order.
Yes.
And plan your estate. We don't want those kids who are not the second in command to be sitting in probate court because they can't sell our home or get rid of their stuff and just wait and wait and wait. That's such a hassle for your family, especially during a tough time in the case of death or, the unexpected. That's what we're planning for here, right? It's not going to be an easy situation moving forward. If I kick the bucket at 45 or even 85, it's never easy, but having that plan in place is everything.
That's exactly right. And even having a contingency plan in place does not make it easy. It makes it easier.
Yes.
And if you've ever been through this, you know how valuable that is for it to be a little bit easier because it's really hard stuff.
It's not something that we're experts at. That's why we rely on attorneys and planners and people like you who can strategize and help us out because it's not our specialty.
Yeah. And one other thing I would say is there's no shame in appointing an attorney to be your executor. It's not a great gift to give to your child or to anyone to be your executor. So don't shy away from that. Yes, it will cost, but whoever you name as your executor is entitled to be paid for their time. So you're paying anyone. The attorney will just be faster and more knowledgeable.
Yeah. Might as well pay to get it done. By the time you reach, like a certain age, you finally start to realize who can I pay to do what and what do I know?
Exactly. Right.
Because we can't know it all.
Right. And your second in command and your family is going to need to support the attorney with all kinds of documentation and information. They'll have enough to do.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, so you mentioned speaking at the Board of American Business Women's Association, and you are on the board of that. That is actually a nonprofit, for those of you who aren't aware of that help forward women in business here. So talk a little bit about your service on their board and what that's meant to you.
Yeah, so I am a treasurer. I'm in the second year as treasurer with this particular chapter. And I really love organizations that support women's growth professionally, whether it's in, a corporate environment or as entrepreneurs.
Or appearing on a podcast all about women.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I really love that more and more, especially as an entrepreneur. It's like, that's the place that I like to be. So it's just, we do a community service project every year around the holidays to support women, maybe women who are in transitional living situations, something like that, in the community. And it's just a wonderful opportunity. I always have a a voice in hiring speakers to booking speakers to speak at the events and all of that kind of stuff. So I love having an opportunity to lift other women up and to give them a platform to speak.
Yes, I love that. I love that you're supporting not only women in business, but women in tough situations too, because women in business come from tough situations. I'm living proof. So it's possible. I love that you're sharing that hope as a business organization to women who are not in business.
I
Yes.
agree with you. And a lot of the skills that I have were developed in my childhood in a very tough situation. And that's why I'm good at emergencies.
I
That's
love
what,
it.
that's what my TED style talk is about.
Ooh,
Uh,
I'm gonna have to go find that. I think I need to listen to that TED Talk.
yeah, so I'm with you. I agree that that's what, that gritty background is what makes a really powerful business owner.
Our mess is our message.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
great.
I love it. I love to stand and tell people like, no, I was a mess. Let me tell you, a mess, 100% through and through. And it's possible for you. And not only that, but recognizing that, like you said, speaking at conferences and lifting up women who are in business, who are trying to be all those things to every person in their business, in their families, in their communities. It's tough, right? And there's enough success for us all. So when I heard someone in a women's business conference say last year, there used to be so much competition, especially in real estate and in these women dominated industries, that we don't recognize sometimes that there's really enough success for everyone. Take a macroeconomics class someday and understand that, like, you can get to the top of that elevator. Send that bitch back down. Let's bring some more ladies up to the top.
Right, right. And I'm with you on that. I think it's very important for women to support other women.
Yeah, and it's time for the men and everyone else in this world to understand that, like, we're not going to just like stand by and wait for our seat at the table. We already have one, and they need to get used to us being there and showing up because we have value to bring and a completely different perspective from what our fathers and grandfathers were looking at in business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did anyone other than you mentioned that your husband is a business owner? Did you grow up with other entrepreneurs or business owners in your family, or what kind of inspired you to do that on your own?
Yeah, my paternal grandfather had a painting business that is still going strong. With my cousin is running it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and my maternal grandmother had an insurance business. So I guess it was definitely in my environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had some inspiration, but they probably didn't share how hard it was going to be with you.
No, I think for them, it just seemed very natural that they were doing what they were doing. We never really talked about, whether it was hard or easy.
Yeah. Would you like to share a story about the difficult childhood and how that made you who you are?
Sure. So, yeah, it was interesting when I started this business and I was thinking about, like, why do people even ask me if I would do something like help your husband navigate this after you pass?
Yeah.
Like, why am I that person? Right. And
Yeah.
when I was in corporate, some of the people I reported to would say that in an emergency, you're the person that I want by my side. And I was always kind of attracted to uh, handling, like, being in business areas that were very stressful, like a lot could go wrong. You had to be flexible and be a problem solver. And so as I reflected on that, I was able to look back and see certain situations in my early childhood. So I had a very tumultuous childhood. My mother had bipolar, and my father had a bunch of different issues, and anger issues were one of them. So it was like chaotic. It was violent. Yeah. So I was actually, when I was 5, um, my parents were having an argument the night before, and I am so nosy. I wanted to know what it was about. So my bedroom was right over the dining room, and I could hear like almost every word. And I'm like, what's going on? The next day, my father was walking up the stairs, and I was walking up next to him. And I said, what were you arguing about last night? And he looked at me and said, do you really want to know? And I said, yeah. And he backhanded me from the top of the stairs, and I went flying down to the bottom of the stairs.
Oh my
And so it was just in 2020, I was having a really bad hip problem and went and got operated on. And they said that they removed scar tissue that was the size of a tendon from my left hip. And I knew exactly what that was from.
From that fall.
Yeah, from that fall. And so at that time, I was working with this group called Speaking Your Brand, and I was, working on creating a new signature talk. I had already worked with them on one. And so I had this operation, and I was like, oh, I think I should talk about this. I should talk about why I'm so good at dealing with emergencies. This is the reason that I'm so good at it. So that's just like one example from my childhood that really in 2020, I was like, oh, I think I need to bring this into one of my signature talks. And then from there, I did the TEDx style talk with Speaking Your Brand and one with this group called Elevate. And then I started a LinkedIn Live series called Struggle to Strength. And so I highlight my clients and collaborators and their stories where they connect the dots between struggles that they've experienced and the strengths that have resulted from them.
That's that word, struggle to strength, just like gave me chills. I love it because I'm so much about like your message. Like people want to hear those lean in stories. Like what you did what? You got pushed down some stairs when you were 5? What? Tell me more. Those are the people don't want to hear about like strategic planning and consultations about like contingency plans. That's not interesting. It's necessary, but it's not interesting. No. That's interesting. That you got what? No wonder you're so good at dealing with crap.
That's it. So that's my secret sauce.
I love it. Yeah. When like my mindset coach says all the time, when you struggle enough, that's when you get it.
That's right. That's right. And, we see the importance of struggle, I think, throughout our life, that truly is how we develop strengths and how we develop very clear perspective, on what we want, what's right for us, what's wrong for us.
Yes. But this is like completely, I don't know, let's just get in the weeds. I mean, we're almost done, but do you ever struggle with like trying to help someone else move from that place of extreme trauma struggle to that successful being? Because it's such a journey to get. I know for me, it's been such a journey over the years of, identifying why am I the way I am? What's gone on? How, what have I been through? What does that mean? How do I move forward? And in such a healthier place than I used to be. But then people will come to me and say, oh my gosh, you've moved from here to here. How'd you do that? You're like, I don't know, like a decade of time, therapy, prayer, meditation, exercise, screaming, crying. I don't know. Right. How do you communicate that to someone who's in the same place, who wants to move to that position of power and strength from the struggle?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't know that I've ever been asked to like help somebody with that. I do think that after we have overcome some hurdles, the way that we show up can make it look like it was really easy.
Mm-hmm. Right? No, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even like people who know what I've been through and that kind of stuff, might have a perception of like, oh, she has it so easy. She retired at 55. She did, you know what I mean? So there's this story of like having it easy, even though the truth is very different than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes it just has to be enough to know that you got over it, and not everybody has to know every gory detail, but the fact that it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's the example that we try and show, right? We don't hide, like, I never want to hide or cover up where I came from.
Hmm.
Um, and, also, I'm also proud of who I am today and all that I've accomplished. So having that, being able to show up with both sides of you, being open and free about sharing that is important.
I love that. Thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to share that story with us. I know that's hard, but you absolutely deserve every ounce of success you have. I love to see this story of your entire life and where it's led you. Now, I think you mentioned you have a freebie for our guests listening here.
I do. So I have a link for a free contingency plan kit. So this is a great way to get started. If you're interested in taking the first steps to create your contingency plan, this will connect you to me, to my email list. You're welcome to unsubscribe anytime, but if you would like to hear more tips about contingency planning, then you'll get that through the emails.
All right. Well, tell us where we get that and how, beyond that, how we can engage your services. What's the best way to get a hold of you and get started for those thinking about, like, I need that?
Yeah, so the link for the free contingency plan kit is nichepartnershipconsulting.net/queens.
Please.
Yeah, and yeah, and then so that'll connect you to the kit. And then if you would like to connect with me, you can just go to my website and head to contact me and submit a connection there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just let me know that you heard me on the Queen's Lead podcast.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here today. Start thinking about who's your second in command. Get them passwords for the love of everything. Get them into a LastPass, no matter what, or on to paper. Get with an estate planner. Mary Beth has a list of attorneys that she can connect you with. Go grab the freebie at nichepartnershipconsulting.net/queens and click that book a consult with her today so that you guys can get started down the path of being prepared, whether you want to have a baby or go on a vacation, or if you're planning on dying because you've had enough, set your people up for success.
Thanks.
You never know. All right.
Summarizes it beautifully.
There you go. I'm here to serve. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being my guest, Mary Beth, on Queen's Lead. Thank you for being a queen who leads.
Thank you so much, Amy. A pleasure to be with you today.